Welcome back to another Empowerment Project podcast. And so today I brought one of my good mates with me, Mika. Now, I'm always inspired by people that have a lot of self-discipline, and Mika's someone that has been training now for most of his life non-stop. 26 years we were talking about, bro. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. So started like early teenagers. Gym started like 13, 14, and can't really recall a time in my life haven't been training.
Yeah,
exercise haven't been part of life. So
yeah, we said. What did you say? You said you went away to like camp once when you were 15, and there was about a 2 month period since then that you've not trained.
Yeah, and that was the only break ever.
Yeah, it's incredible, bro. I mean,
basically from like what it was like first. Started doing push-ups, abs, and all this kind of stuff. Kind of when I was 9, 10. Guess I was like inspired by watching Rocky 3 movie or something, and then was a bit of like in quite bad shape, and just decided to do something about it, change.
Yeah, I mean that's why I want to bring you in today to talk about this. I think it's always interesting. A lot of people like want to achieve certain goals in life, but I mean obviously everybody relates to this. Maybe lack like an element of discipline that stops them from achieving it. I mean you've clearly been extremely disciplined with training, that's for sure, over the last 26 years.
Yeah, that was like that. Just like became driven quite instantly. Instantly in the process, and just like I remember early days was like some like push-ups at home, and then started like running around this lake back home in Finland. It's about 5k, and this like 3-4 times a week. Was clocking the time and try to improve the time each time, and yeah.
So what initially, obviously we spoke a little bit about this before we got here, but what was your initial like reason for doing this? You mentioned that you seen like Rocky, you were inspired, I'm guessing from a young age, to like seeing someone like active and physically fit. And you said you were at a point, in your early teens where you were pretty overweight, right? And
I was like maybe over plus like this kind of like shall I say skinny fat look, than like man boobs and all this. Like, but pretty out of shape, but not like extremely overweight, but yeah, quite.
Yeah.
But then, because obesity wasn't as common then, when it was like 90s or whatever. So on that, the category was quite like
bigger.
Oh yeah, bigger. Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is the same even with the clients that we work with nowadays. I mean, I'm guessing to start with, for most people, there's always an element of pain of some sort to the reason why they get started. And most of the time, it normally comes down to some surface level stuff, like some aesthetic goals.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You need something to get you going. And to be honest with you, this was exactly why I started. Mine was a little bit opposite to you. I wasn't overweight, but I always felt like the really skinny kid in school. And I've never been that tall either. I've always been quite short. So I felt like I was just a bit skinny and short in comparison to other people in my year. So we started the gym at a similar time. We were both in our like early teens. And my reason for starting in some respects was similar to yours. I was like, I want to get bigger. Obviously for yours is you want to lose weight. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about this journey today, both of our journeys, and hopefully some people can get some value from like how we've been training over the last, decade or couple decades for you, and things like that. But talk us through maybe like your early years of training and maybe what you do sort of differently now compared to then.
Well, yeah, that was of course that time there wasn't that much knowledge. So basically, first years was like hitting the gym, just like constantly, no plan, just like overdoing chest, biceps, obviously, mirror muscles, stuff like that, and I remember like after school, when I was like maybe 14, 15, after school, I remember going to library. There wasn't much like, basic information, right? But I remember going to like read books and then try to learn about training, and just read everything I could find about training back then.
So just to upskill yourself, just to get a little bit better in that area.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this as well, right? But like, what's your opinion now? Obviously, for someone who's just starting out, we have this like access to so much information. It's crazy, right?
Yeah,
what would you say about that now?
Yeah, the basic it can be a little bit hint when with someone's just new to exercise, the training, fitness world. It can be a bit overwhelming. You might find too much information. There's a lot of horrible stuff as well. So there is too much a bit overwhelming. Someone might go for like follow this for a week, switch on straight away. Follow this for a week, like, because if you wouldn't stick to anything, you won't really see progress. And then it starts lacking the hard work and consistency.
Yeah, and I think you always get more like buy-in yourself and more reassurance when you ultimately start to see some change, right?
Yeah.
And it's even like when we'll obviously go back to this in a minute, but you're a personal trainer as well, and it's like one of the things we always try to get clients initially is quick wins, because they then trust you more as a coach, and inevitably then going to listen to more of what you have to say, and over time you can help them even more so.
Yeah.
But it's like if you'll keep chopping and changing from one thing to the next with your training, with your nutrition, inevitably there's going to be inconsistency and therefore lack of results.
Absolutely, yeah. One thing I would say, what I definitely learned, because when I started training, I wanted to like lose body fat and gain maximum amount of muscle at the same time. Obviously, that's not going to work, right? It's like completely different goals.
Yeah.
What easily happens, start hopping that I want to lose fat for 2 weeks, then I want to get bigger. So it's sort of like you're not sticking really into any kind of like either goal for long enough to see good progress.
Yeah. I mean, for most people nowadays that I would work with, and I don't know, maybe you tell me your thoughts on this, but we always like say roughly like sort of 6 to 12 weeks per a goal to sort of work towards, whether it's fat loss or performance. I think if you can't be consistent for at least that period of time, you're not really going to see much change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also like talking about the absolute beginner can actually see like muscle growth with the deficit as well. But then the harder it gets, the longer someone's been training.
Yeah. And I think this is even possible for someone that's been training for a while, right? But the obvious issue is like, if you're in a deficit and you already have a decent bit of muscle, you obviously need to train to a pretty damn good intensity to keep putting on muscle.
Yeah. This is like not getting the maximum. This actually definitely like possible,
but it's just hard.
It's like depends on the person who, if let's say there's 100 boxes to tick, you need to be ticking at least 98 of them to get the results in the same in the calorie deficit.
Yeah.
So you need to be extremely consistent as well. So
yeah, I mean, in the early stages, I'm guessing it's just a case of, for most people, keeping it pretty simple and consistent. Like, get the basics right. And I mean, be interested to hear your thoughts on this, but I'm guessing my perspective would be that you're training at least 3 to 4 days a week for about 30 to 45 minutes. You'll have some form of awareness of how much you're eating in terms of consumption, calories. You're improving your food quality, so there's less processed foods in your diet. You're getting better sleep, and ultimately you're eating more protein. And I think if you tick them boxes, you're going to lose body fat.
Absolutely.
You're going to lose body fat and put on muscle, most likely for the first 90 days at least, right?
Yeah, just like focus on the basics, like always like having protein with your meal, like mainly whole foods. At least I would say like 80% to be like ideal, like whole foods.
Yeah. And then over time, you would then obviously, referring back to what you said a minute ago, you would suggest more so just like channeling one goal at once and going harder with that goal.
Absolutely, yeah. Then you get like better progress, right? Then you like I said, like if you don't like stick to one goal, then you just like sort of like a year later you're in the same spot easily. So
yeah, I mean it's interesting even on some of my like some of the things I've been working towards over the last few years. I can relate to that. Is like if I've been trying to lose body fat, there may have been like, you're tracking some of the data and obviously maybe you are leaning up, but there's been like 2 or 3 weeks in a row where the scales just don't budge. And then suddenly you're like, oh, there's another drop off there. So it's like, if you're right, if you're like looking at something just for 1 or 2 weeks at a time and then you're moving away from it, you're just not giving yourself nowhere near enough time or enough of a chance to actually see progress before your attention then drops. Yeah. So I think, for most people, they need to be like, right, I'm doing this for 6 to 12 weeks and I'm going to give it my all before then saying it doesn't work rather than doing it for 2 weeks and say it doesn't work.
Absolutely. And also in the beginning, like now, especially like where we live, like it's like London, most people have a lot of social life like happening there. But basically in the beginning, usually you need to say no a bit more often about certain things. Like you need to be more like get the priorities right. That you can like, let's say if you start training, if you have like, let's say you have like 3-4 late night outs there and you have 2 training sessions a week, you're most likely not going to see any much progress at all.
Yeah, so and it's changing that balance. Well, I hate the word balance, but it's changing that equation, I guess, by 20 20%. So it's like
Yeah,
you up the gym session by an extra one a week and you get rid of the late night or the boozing once a week.
Yeah,
and it's not just like going to give you a little bit more results. It's probably going to give you substantially faster results.
Absolutely.
So this is what I always say to clients sometimes as well, is I'm like, you're already leaning into it. You're already like tracking your calories most of the time. You're already training quite a bit. I'm like, just do it a tiny bit more accurately and you're going to get substantially faster results. So that, like, you know, you're tracking your calories Monday to Friday, but the whole weekend you ain't doing anything. Maybe let's just track Saturday as well.
Yeah, that's the thing about, like, especially with the weight loss. If you're counting calories from Monday to Friday, and then hitting deficit, but then if you're over-consuming Saturday and Sunday, the weekly average might be just like plus minus nothing. So
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what always interests me, and I'm sure this interests other people as well. It's like, you know, I've been training for maybe 15 years ish, something like that. You've been training for 26. What's kept you going all this time, bro?
It becomes part of you. I think the exercise, training, exercise is like it doesn't, at the end. It's not really like even like it's just like just a lifestyle. It's just like whenever, if I have a 4 or 5 days off, which I'm not saying is good for you, like, but I don't feel that I really need it. Like, it's more like it's just a part of lifestyle. It's just like, it's like, to be honest, myself, I don't really look for motivation really. Yeah. Anyway, just like
it comes to your level of, guessing your version of downtime or your version of like personal fulfillment comes from the training. Yeah. Okay. And then another thing I wanted to sort of speak about is just like how you've maybe adapted your training now compared to how you used to train. You said obviously before that was more like aesthetic purposes. Obviously when you may be overweight and didn't feel so good about yourself when you first started training. Yeah. Now it's very performance heavy, right?
It's very performance heavy. Like, of course, like I would say in early 20s, you want to get like goals like get as big as possible. But then now it's more like being all around fitness. Is like it's way more cardio based, a bit more CrossFit based, and performance goals. Like, it's actually like running came back after 20 years.
Remember getting you out for a few runs recently,
exactly.
bro.
Yeah. So these things like that. And also the thing is like with this cardio work, I would say I feel way fitter and I feel way better than 15 years ago.
I think it's important it's important to integrate both and be like a hybrid, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, getting into this like Ironman training, I know a lot of people now into like the cardio side of things, but they don't do any weights.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, they're way too cardio heavy. Like, and the likelihood of them injuring themselves goes up because they just got no muscle. They're not very as efficient as they could be if they were stronger. And also, like, unfortunately, even if you're expending that many calories, you're never really necessarily going to build a physique that you want. On the flip side, like some of these guys in the gym, they just have like no cardio capability whatsoever, and they're just extremely unmobile.
Yeah, then what happens that you always feel tired, you get injured really easily. And also recovery, like let's say if you never do any cardio, usually like if you do like you see there's people who do like arm workouts, they get out of breath doing a bicep curl. So I think it's time to add some getting into the cardio side, because
I mean, it can't be healthy if you're that tired.
And also when you get your cardio up, your recovery, you recover from way easier from these weight training as well. So
I've noticed that myself. It's like now that I'm more aerobically fit, it's like you can actually train harder in your weight sessions because you just recover faster in between sets.
Quicker, yeah, absolutely.
And then no different, obviously, with like the running side of things or whatever. You find you're more efficient when running because you're just stronger. You have a bit of that more explosive power off the floor. So I'm very much for like the whole hybrid training. When I was like maybe in my teens, I'm guessing one of the mistakes I would have made is like, I can't be doing any of that. I'm gonna like lose loads of muscle.
Yeah,
where it definitely doesn't happen that way, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But also I would say that where I'm now, for example, I think like in early 20, I could have, like, if the goal was like getting bigger, get more muscle and get stronger, if I would have done the same amount of cardio, I think I would have not gotten really anywhere. So I think the goals have a bit changed. So it's like you're able to maintain the same amount of strength and muscle mass with doing lots of cardio as well.
Yeah.
So
but once you've now built it, it's easier to maintain it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I guess this is what we were talking about earlier is like now we probably find it a lot easier now to stay leaner. And some people that might be sound annoying to them, but it's probably easier now for us to stay leaner in comparison to before. And like, you know, our food can be a lot more varied. We actually generally do eat quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, even on the weekend, like you're like me, you like a few beers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm quite open about that with my clients because it's good to show that we actually have like, you know, we're not just like some fitness freaks that eat chicken and broccoli.
Yeah, just like go always sleep at 9.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't be wrong. We put in massive amounts of effort with our training.
Yes,
most of our nutrition most of the time is dialed in.
Yeah.
But there is a bit of what we like, and there is definitely some boozy weekends.
Yeah, absolutely. And also like you need to like bit like choose your poison, I would say, or choose your which one is your balance. Like let's say, well, someone might like I would skip these. Someone might skip like a few beers and have like 2 slices of cake instead. So it's just like depends on.
Me and Pav were actually talking about this in the last podcast. Like she's really not fussed about booze, and I'm not bothered about like dessert. She keeps to the dessert, I keep to the booze. Like that's just the way I do it.
I'm the same. Like I'd rather have these than the
pint.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's just about making your thing work. And I'm guessing another thing from that as well is like still, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing things that don't necessarily go fully against your goals. Obviously, like drinking and things like this, and you know, it's not a byproduct of optimal health or staying lean, but it's also sometimes just, you know, enjoying yourself as well. But another thing that we'll do is like we'll make a conscious effort to actually still wake up.
Very strict, absolutely.
Yeah, train, eat well. Yeah. So it's not like we just go off the beaten track for an entire 2 or 3, 4 days at a time.
No, that's the thing. Eating like after like next day to be 100% on the goal, like not like
back to it.
No, straight away back to the plan, like back to eating.
And there's plenty of them sessions when you're in the gym the next day after having a few beers where you're not necessarily feeling the strongest, but
you're supposed to keep moving.
Yeah, your body appreciates it that you've been there. Do you remember the so my stag do? Like what were we doing? We went out and then the following.
We suddenly were in the gym. We suddenly do like legless rope climbs there and shit like CrossFit stuff. Suddenly like. Yeah, so like maybe you walk with me, let's go to the gym. All right then.
Mate, how good was that? How good was that gym?
Really good. That was
unbelievable,
really
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If anybody's in Marbella, they have to visit that gym.
They have to,
that was unreal.
That was crazy.
One of the highlights of the stag, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of like approaches, so it'd be good to hear some of your approaches towards some of your goals. So you obviously said about sort of being a bit more like tunnel vision with just one thing at once, rather than like, I want to get leaner, I want to get stronger. People try and focus on so many things at once. Like I'll get some clients that are like, I want to run a fast 5K. I'd love to do some pull-ups. Oh yeah, and I also want to get ripped. I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, what do you want first? It's better to focus on one thing. Yeah. So when it comes to you focusing on your goals, like how would you roughly approach it? Like, would you go for a bit softer, a bit harder? Like what sort of period would you give something? Like let's say you wanted to get a bit leaner right now. How would you approach that?
How would I approach that right now?
Yeah.
Let's say like talking to like clients or
well, no,
like,
for you, like,
for me.
If you were like, I want to, you know, potentially lose like say 3 to 5% body fat and get a bit leaner over the next few months, would you go in with a bit of a softer approach and still train hard? Would you just go a bit harder on the fat loss? Like what would be your normal approach to a goal?
I think with the training, when you've been training very long, you can go do a bit extreme stuff as well. So like I would keep probably a high volume. I would do like, I think then like I wouldn't try to increase muscle mass with the deficit, but I could still increase my 5Ks, for example, or some performance aspects of the training. But of course, there has to be like one main goal, I would say, and then you can improve a little bit on the other goals as well.
And would your approach to nutrition be like a bit more of a harder or softer method in terms of like the deficit and things like that?
Performance aspect, it would be a little bit. It wouldn't be, the deficit wouldn't be like massive then. But if it would be like I would just focus on fat loss. Like let's say I would like want to lose 2 kilos, then it would be absolutely like hard approach, to be honest. Like a few weeks, like a big deficit, just crack on with it and just like being hungry.
I'm the same. I prefer to struggle, but then get it done faster rather than it like being really, really prolonged.
Yeah, and also I would say that because if your maintenance calories are higher, you can afford to do these kind of things like drop, or we can be on a bigger deficit. But if someone's maintenance calories are like on 2,000, throwing 1,000 calories away is not a great approach maybe. So
yeah, I'm guessing this is why for some lighter guys,
Yeah.
and maybe have less muscle, or for example, even some women that have to go quite low in weight in order to get lean. This is why it sometimes becomes a bit more challenging later on down the line, because their maintenance level just reduces, right? But at the moment, you're a lean chap at 90 kilos, and that's because you've weight trained for so long. So like your maintenance is high. So for you to then see a shift in weight quite quickly is like your version of a big deficit is sometimes some people's maintenance, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
but that also refers back, I'm guessing, to someone that's quite overweight as well. Like to start with, their maintenance is going to be pretty high. Yep. And I'm guessing this is where some people get it wrong when I'm talking to them. They're like, "Oh, I have a slow metabolism." I'm like, well, no. If you're overweight, you actually have quite a fast metabolism. Like the heavier you are, technically, the more calories you can eat to maintain your weight. Right. Obviously, the best way of explaining it is like if you're walking to the fridge, that requires more effort when you're 100 kilos versus when you're 50 kilos. Yeah. Right. Therefore, you're going to expend more every minute. So it actually means, I'm guessing, you should be able to see faster movement in the scales in the early stages of fat loss.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends how the starting weight of the person. Someone, let's say, who weighs 100 kilos, for example, most likely there would be. It's more like you're more likely to see quicker weight drop than someone who weighs for like 55 kilos, for example.
Of course.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you've been now personal training at, I met you in Baker Street, about 7-8 years ago now. Man, that's flown by. Yeah. Crazy. But you've been obviously a personal trainer now for, you said about 16 years, right? 15, 16 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and obviously even before then, you were then still like writing programs and stuff with people.
Yeah, true.
So you've had a lot of experience working with and helping people.
Yeah.
What would like be some of the common mistakes you think that like people would make to start with when you first start working with them, like things that you may have to try and help them out with and explain to them where they might be going wrong previously?
I think the main thing is one of the common points is like just having too many goals at once. Let's say like after like someone comes to, I want to have big legs. I want to like increase my squats, get more muscle in the legs. But at the same time, I want to run 3 days a week. That means your legs are always fatigued. That it's not like these two goals won't be mixing against it. So if you have trouble building muscle in your legs, and then if you like increase the running as well, kind of things.
The thing is, it sounds so simple, but the people just really underlook these things, right? And it's even like, I'm guessing it even comes down to like the food side of things. Like I'll get some clients to start with that really want to like dial it in and have all the macros looking fantastic. And I'm like, okay, this does help, but you don't even know like how many calories are in this current meal that you're eating. I'm like, can we just start with the basics? So sometimes it's like, for most people, it's this, I'm guessing they already know what to do, but they're just trying to look for better answers, and they're just moving themselves away from actually doing what is the basic work, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And also one thing that sometimes people think that if diet has a name, that is magic. Like, for example, like there's the camps like low fat, moderate carb, and this like, it still comes down to like calories. Like we want to have like good quality food always, but like sometimes people who like have this keto approach think that calories don't matter and just like I eat whatever and just the fat will disappear. But no, it's not going to work that way, right? So
it's just another fancy name of dressing up a calorie deficit, right?
Yeah. Like for someone, if someone feels great on it and then it makes you eat less calories and you sustain it, why not? But and also one thing I would say, you need to see what the training program first and then put the nutrition program on top of that, not the other way around. So of course, if someone does more like running, more like cardio work, like a lot of training volume, like you wouldn't be doing that on very low carb.
Of course, no.
So
I'll get this with some clients that are maybe trying to like say lose a bit of body fat and actually are now like getting into the gym, but they've been running for a long time. Now, obviously, like on some of their long run days, they still need to be relatively high in calories, and they also do need some carbs in order to go and do a 10 or 15K long run. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. You should be looking at how someone trains and then bespoking the nutrition based on training. Otherwise, you would tell this person, you know what, maintain this deficit, but then their output may be so high. I mean, they're going to crash and burn in some of them workouts, right?
Absolutely, and recovery as well. So although like carbs are essential, but they definitely like they're fuel source. Like when you're doing certain type of exercise, you need, like we said, that if someone's like running 4 or 5 times a week or doing like with cardio work, you wouldn't do that on low carbs and just high fats.
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced that a few times on the bike. It's like if you don't time the nutrition properly, damn, it makes a difference.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
You feel like a totally different person. I mean, anybody listening to this has probably, you know, been into any of that type of stuff will know what I mean, but you really do hit what you would call a wall, like, and it's not a pleasant one.
No.
So, I mean, a few other mistakes as well. I think one that I'd be interested to hear what you have to think about this, but like, sometimes it's like when people will maybe start to drop their calories in order to like maybe start to see some weight loss. So let's say for argument's sake that they drop their calories by a couple hundred a day, but their activity generally starts to drop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Like basically then there's like, if someone drops like 200 calories, but then they drop same time without noticing it, their non-exercise activity. Basically there's no deficit. You're just dropping the calories, but you drop the activity as well.
So it's like not really being balanced out, isn't it?
So basically you're dropping calories for nothing then.
Yeah. So I mean, the other thing is like maintaining consistent output, and the best way would be doing that really is through movement, because it's the least aggressive on the in terms of the body, and then obviously maintaining what would be the deficit through the food. And we were saying this earlier, like we were saying some of your days where you probably expend the most, because obviously you're still a PT in the gym, right? Some of the days you expend the most is not the days you actually work out. It might be the days that you're busy working.
So basically, of course, a bit like extreme example, because my movement might be is higher than normally.
Well, it could relate to anybody in like, you know, like a builder or even a waitress, like people with that type of job.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah. So these things, like these days, like when you're like always on your foot, you like never really stop. Your calories will be way like sometimes higher than what you think. Like on the days that you like, let's say you don't have any non-exercise activity, you train very hard. On these days, your calories might be even lower. Yeah,
and that's another thing as well. I think when some people start getting into the gym, they're like almost use that as like a way of them now feeling better about them, going, oh, you know what, I've put in an hour workout here, so if my food's even more flexible than normal, then it's fine.
Yeah.
When really it's like it's never going to outweigh, right?
No.
And it's like the day, like you said there, like, you know, if you have a big session in the gym and then maybe you're not active for the rest of the day because you're just lounging around or whatever, you're going to expend actually shed tons less than if you had a busy day at work because you're on your feet moving all day. And that's where predominantly most of our expenditure comes. And I'm guessing where a lot of people get it wrong. And and I was talking to you about this on the way as well, but I've probably found it harder to maintain my weight now or training for an Ironman than I did before doing it, because my appetite's always elevated from all the running and swimming and bike. Which is really interesting.
High amount, right?
Yeah, most people just assume, you know, you're moving those, you can eat what you want. Well, you can, but there's still a tipping point.
At the end, how easy it is to eat 1,000 calories extra. It doesn't take, like foods as you like, it doesn't take really more than 5 minutes if you're really hungry.
Not if you have a big appetite, bro. Yeah. Okay, cool. So then what's next for you then, bro? What are you training? What's keeping you excited at the moment with your training? You've been into some of the high rock stuff. I've seen you've been doing that.
Oh yeah, that's like more like you know, this turf game stuff, more like cardio based stuff. Where I'm really enjoying those at the moment, and really like fires me up. It's like another level of there's like new type of goals, really like getting better at this stuff, and it's just like really been enjoying that stuff. Like
it's nice to change up sometimes, isn't it? It's like, you know, as much as even like me and you both love the gym, I'm guessing like even doing the same thing, it almost goes against what we said at the start. You need to do the same thing for a while, because you're not going to see any change. But once you've done it for so bloody long, it's then quite nice to sort of adjust it a little bit, right? And you know, I'm guessing that's why I got into doing sort of the triathlons. It's probably why you've gone a bit more cardio heavy recently. It just puts a bit of a different dynamic on your training.
Yeah, just like started noticing massive increase in recovery. That just like general feeling, like just feeling better. I guess comes to that the VO2 max, a higher HRV definitely.
Yeah.
So.
And I sleep way better from doing loads of cardio. Like, it helps big time. I find like if I do like go out for like a run later on in the day, I can still easily like downwind. But like if I'm going like do a big gym session, my nervous system's just like firing, and it keeps me up more at night for sure. Yeah. I find that definitely affects me for sure. Weight training for me has always got to be the first half of the day. It just ruins my sleep. I know it's different for each of us, but that tends to be the way with me. So have you got any events coming up then? Anything that you've got in the diary? Anything you got planned?
There is one little one in few ones like October, and then one just later, not like in a very near future when big ones, but at the end of the year.
Nice.
And
couple bits then,
Yeah.
I always try to have something like in the diary of something to work towards. I think once you've been doing something for like so long, you need a reason to keep doing it. And you know, I always see you like putting these little events in and stuff as well. So you just have that as like something. Just keep working towards something. Yeah.
It helps you to work harder, definitely.
Yeah.
It gives you the why to like push a bit harder, why to like progress. Because like probably without any goals I would be doing the same things, but like, you know what, I can take it a bit easier today. I can like be like not push as hard. So
I think pressure and urgency is a good thing. All right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I even try and do this with clients on like a minor level as well. Sometimes it'll be like, okay, you know, we want to get off 5 kilos. I think based on what we've suggested, this should take you X amount of weeks, and we'll create a bit of a countdown to do it, because it puts a bit of a rocket out of people's ass sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And I find that's why like even like the photo shoots we do can work really well from a physique point of view, because no one wants to stand in front of a camera on the day feeling like they've not tried.
Yeah, exactly. Then it makes you try harder. Definitely,
for sure,
100%.
Yeah.
Like just like when you're like out there usually doing you're more likely to, without this in the diet, you're more likely to the wrong choice for your goals, right?
Yeah.
That's always back of your mind there. So.
And as time's ticking by, as it gets closer to that date, you generally start to put your foot on the gas harder. Because you know, you're like, all right, okay, now there's only 2 months. Now there's only a month. So it gets actually inevitably a little bit more restrictive over time, just subconsciously. But obviously, because of that, you're going to get more progress.
Yeah.
Something that might be helpful then for the people that are listening, if we could sort of like, if someone was obviously looking at getting into the gym at the moment, or maybe they have been in and out of the gym, floating around between like trying their own thing, doing a bit of classes, downloading some online workouts, trying some nutritional stuff, but they seem to all be a little bit confused. What if we're talking, okay, nutrition, we've already had a little bit of a chat about the basics of this, but where, first of all, would you tell someone to start with their food? So like, what would be the things you would tell them to prioritize?
Then the food quality. It's like, by the way, like any of these, like whatever approach anyone takes is like carnivore, keto, vegan. I think everyone agrees that we should consume as much as possible like nutrient, like dense, like whole foods.
I couldn't agree more, bro.
Yeah, less processed. Like everyone will agree with that.
Yeah,
so
and
that's
some people are actually confused nowadays to what natural means. People ask me like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, turn around the back of the packet, and if there's that many ingredients on it, you get bored of reading it. Then it's probably processed."
Yeah. It's probably something that if your grandma can't understand, that it's probably
So the first thing would be obviously to focus on the quality.
Yeah.
What would you then tell someone else to then start focusing on once they've improved the quality?
Protein. So definitely getting like, most people don't have enough protein in their diet. So like definitely having like protein on every meal. Satiety, and then there was a thermic effect of food as well.
Yeah.
And
for anybody that doesn't know what that means, what does that mean?
Yeah, so basically like protein, fats, and carbohydrates. So protein has the highest thermic effect of food. Means like your body needs, let's say, from 100 calories to get like something like 28 or 30% of the calories go to like processing the protein. This number, except it was like some like.
You're pretty much right. That's what I heard as well. So it's around about like 70% of the calories from protein are sort of basically actually absorbed, or you know, there's 30% that are burnt while going through that process. And what they say, roughly about 5 to 10% of the calories are only actually sort of burnt from fats and protein. Fats and carbs. So basically, I mean, keeping it simple is like you just burn it more effectively, right? Yeah.
And keeps you fuller
for longer.
Right? And then
so we got like the protein, we've got like obviously the food quality. What would be like the third thing you would then tell someone to focus on for their nutrition?
So what's the water intakes? That can be, if someone doesn't drink enough water, that can be often confused as being hungry. If someone's, let's say, moving a lot, just drinking 1 liter of water a day, they can always feel like more fatigued, that you're dehydrated, you might think you're hungry. But
I like the way you say that, because you're thinking it as well from a performance point of view. And a lot of people would have probably just said the obvious one, that I'll focus on your calories, but you said the water. And it's interesting you say that, because there's a few times where I've like not drunk correctly recently when doing some of these cardio things, and I've noticed that, oh my God, the drop off in performance is insane.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you start training, if you start drinking, then it's already a bit like too late. You're already dehydrated,
Yeah.
so you have to hydrate before.
It's
right?
game
So,
over. Yeah. I always try to like almost not necessarily like fully hyperhydrate, but drink a lot more than necessarily needed the day before, doing like something big the next day. So I was going to do like a big bike ride today. Like yesterday, I would have drank at least a liter more than necessary, because then I know that's going to carry into today. And you're right. Like once you're already out there and once you're already feeling like you've got a bit of a headache or your energy's crap, it's too late. It's game over.
Yeah.
It's going to take several hours to catch up.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay. That's obviously the nutrition. Next thing then, the training. So someone was literally just getting into the gym. Maybe even keep this pretty simple. Like let's just say like a younger guy that maybe wants to start putting on some muscle, or even someone, you know, maybe a bit more middle age, but doesn't really know what they're doing. What would be the first bit of advice you would give them?
Someone who's just like new to training.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I would say, like we were asking earlier, what I did wrong, like when I started training off, because like I'm hammering too many sets of muscle with just no muscle, like hammering basically like 20 sets for chest with no chest. So basically for like beginning, like most people benefit more from like full body workouts, like the 3 full body workouts a week, rather than doing these body part splits like, you know, chest and biceps and or chest and shoulders on the same day. But then the more progress, more advanced you get, then I would move into maybe upper lower split, and then later, but not like, of course, then it requires more training. Then maybe a push pull leg split.
It always comes down to like how many days you're training as well.
Absolutely. So for normal players, I would say upper lower splits.
Yeah.
In the beginning, like full body, and then maybe like a bit more deviated to like upper lower split.
Thing is, even with like the full body approach, you can actually put in more effort per muscle group.
Yes. Yeah, and also like then you just need to be very intelligent, like what kind of exercises you put into the program. For example, if they're like the three full body days a week, so let's say you get okay, let's talk about like, so basically let's say legs, glutes. So one day would be more like focusing on the shortened contractions. It could be like hip thrusts, back extensions, and then one day more like we focus on the lengthened position, like, you know, RDLs, squats, leg presses, so that the muscle is trained on all these lengths.
Yeah, and you want to, what would you say roughly to start with? Try and do say 12 working sets per muscle group per week, around that sort of region, for if it's sort of like
per muscle group. Yeah. Then per week, yes.
And then obviously adjust the volume accordingly depending on how you respond. Yeah.
Yeah. Some for some people it might be more, some people less. Like depending like logging. Yeah. How the body is responding, and the most important thing is the quality of the set. Because sometimes, if you want to improve one body part, often it's the quality of set was lacking. Sometimes when people are putting more volume before focusing on the quality, which is wrong approach.
It's like shed tons more reps, or even shed tons more weight. But like, if anything, the range of motion or the technique is only getting worse.
Yeah.
So it's like
you're putting it more like more pressure to your joints and ligaments, right?
Yeah.
Than to the actual muscle then.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm guessing build up for a beginner. It's like build up the correct planes of motion first, and actually just keep intensity more towards the lower end, but understand how to move, and then start driving intensity up as you maintain good technique. Yeah. And I'm guessing like we were saying about this as well, like, a version of overtraining for one person is totally different to the next.
Obviously, very true. Because I'm people say that when you age that you can't tolerate more volume, but I've often seen 50, close to 60-year-old clients recover way quicker than some 20-year-olds. So.
Yeah. Depends if you're like, you know, what you got going on external to the gym, right? Like the booze, the late nights, and to be honest, even how long you've been training for. Obviously, if you're someone that's new to training, like maybe twice a week is all right for you.
Yeah.
If you've been training for a fair few years and you've been gradually up in the volume over time, then you'll probably be more conditioned to training, you know, at least maybe sometimes even more than once a day. Like if you think even about a professional athlete, they're training for several hours a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it comes to the training age, right? Then your body can tolerate much more volume than in the beginning, right? So
yeah, amazing, bro. Thank you so much for coming in and having a chat about this. Before we go,
pleasure.
Anything else you would like to add?
Anything else? I think we
got
went
it
through the.
We got it.
Yeah, we got it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mika. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, mate.
Cool. Nice one, bro.
Yes.
Boom.